Hi everyone, and welcome to the Weekly Wrap. My name is Maryann Simson with Apex Media.
And I'm Seth Miller from PaxEx.aero. And this week we're diving into biometrics and health passports. There's a lot of talk about what it's going to take to get passengers back on planes, and it seems like this is going to be a big component of that.
We'll also be looking at antimicrobial materials, fabrics, and plastics in the cabin, which isn't a new concept, but one that's a much hotter topic right now. But first, some more encouraging news this week from airlines around the world. Seth?
Yeah, last week we talked about the airlines increasing some of their capacity, and this week that trend is continuing. We heard from Delta, for example, adding about 100 weekly flights, trying to get their numbers up, trying to connect more passengers, get people moving better. Azul in Brazil just announced that they're going to be increasing to about 20% of their prior schedule starting in June. And even in Southeast Asia, we're also seeing increase in a lot of domestic routes, in Vietnam particularly, and then some international routes are starting to open up. We're seeing countries opening their borders. We talked a little bit about travel bubbles last week and connecting individual countries together, and this week we're starting to finally see that come together. So it's a really nice trend. Definitely a slow and steady sort of situation, but it's coming along.
Isn't that right, big guy? Slow and steady wins the race. In addition to improved hygiene practices, the use of face masks or face coverings by passengers and crew, and social distancing where it's possible throughout the journey, a number of companies are tabling concepts for digital health verification solutions that will act as a sort of health passport as an attempt to sort of kickstart air travel again and increase traveler confidence.
Yeah, and so what we've seen is there's some companies that are definitely tightly tied into the airline air travel ecosystem. In the US, Clear is one of them, biometric screening at security checkpoints for the TSA. They're trying to get into the health passport sort of idea, and they've come up with a concept of sort of a little bubble almost that you can use as a physical location. They're talking about in office buildings and things like that, but potentially could also expand into the travel space where passengers would take a selfie, potentially have some sort of health screening happen in this little kiosk type situation, and then assuming everything is good, pass through and go into their regular security checkpoint and then on to the airport situation. IATA also talked about this concept in their weekly briefing, coming up with the idea of needing better ways for the airport as a whole to be considered a sterile environment so that everybody inside sort of feels safe, feels like they're at a lower risk of transmission. And getting to that point is certainly going to be a key factor in returning passengers to travel. One of the big challenges is making sure that the data being collected has some sort of scientific backing to it. And also that passengers are comfortable with the overall process and willing to share as much of this data is going to be necessary.
Yeah, I know some of these solutions have also been recommended for things like entering fitness facilities, like you said, places of employment. And I wonder if rolling them out or doing some tests and deployments in less pressurized environments like trying to access the gym or a shopping mall or an office building might help prepare passengers for doing that at the airport, because we know the airport is already a very high stress environment. So I wonder if some of the solutions that will find more success in travel will be the ones that are able to demonstrate successful deployments in everyday life first.
Yeah, I think that there's an interesting mix there of, airlines and airports and aviation in general travel. That whole situation is always sort of seen as special in the world, and can things that work in the real world adapt to that specialness that is aviation, and how that's going to work with some of these technologies, some of these platforms is going to be real interesting to see.
All right, and as our guest today on the show, we've got Simon Lamkin from NIIT, who have been developing a health passport solution called Health Passport with their partner Appy. Simon, hi, welcome to the show.
Hi Maryann, hi Seth. Thanks for inviting me along to chat today. It's a real pleasure to be part of the show this week.
Why don't you give us a bit of an elevator pitch for this digital passport solution?
We're really excited to have created the digital health passport. We've got a product that enables the user to identify themselves using the biometric features of their smartphone. You simply upload your ID and a selfie, and that's used to verify and confirm your identity. This ID validation process is available in over 170 countries globally. Once this is complete, you can then go through the certification process, and we have 3 options here: self-certification, uploading a health certificate, or connecting to a healthcare provider to access your digital record regarding your COVID health status. Airports, airlines, border security, and anyone in the supply chain managing access to a facility can then validate the record using either NFC or a QR code to assess whether you're fit to travel.
Interesting. There's a lot of companies trying and talking about similar types of things. Is there a concept of cooperation or open standards that you're working against to make it so that the passenger can sort of get any one of these apps up and running for themselves and be able to access airports or other places with any of them?
Great question. We're very much open to discussing opportunities to share ideas and cooperate with other vendors, especially if we can help each other access digital records in other countries. We're already discussing some opportunities for healthcare records in mainland Europe and the US. With regards to open standards, as much as I might wish for this, it won't happen, even in these COVID times we're living through. Each country around the globe has their own discrete solutions for managing this data, and many systems and many privacy standards are in play. We've seen this already with APIS standards over the years. Despite there being one common format, every country has adopted their own version to suit their own needs.
And the last question for me is, does the self-certification concept really work? Can we truly trust passengers to give the honest answers and get the right information out there?
We have to get the balance right between controlling freedom of movement, working with government legislation, working to airlines' own imposed rules, but most importantly, putting trust back into the system. We don't see the digital health passport as being the single decision-making tool used to enable travel to restart. It's simply part of the picture. For example, we're also working with kiosk vendors to help create an integrated contactless end-to-end process that will add more value to the digital health proposition.
Thanks so much, Simon. And just finally, obviously, data security is really important in the aviation industry. Who's going to control this data, and how is it going to be displayed or doled out to the folks who need it? And, are the passengers able to, take that data back after?
The user controls their own data. They choose to download the app, upload and validate their own identity, grant their own access to connect to their digital health record, and once complete, they will allow a third party to validate that they are fit to travel. The airline airport will never have access to any of the passenger data. They will simply get a binary response to a simple question. The team have done everything to avoid having any data stored locally, and especially nothing to be shared. We've been working using a concept called zero knowledge proof to help really drive this design and cement the proposition that we won't be sharing information.
Well, that was really interesting, Seth. I think at the end of the day, it's really going to be about getting the balance right between containment of the virus and restarting the economy and restarting travel.
Yeah, and from the passenger perspective, I think, getting the idea of the buy-in that it is reasonable to share this data, that their information is going to be kept safe, that's going to be arguably much more significant than the technical challenges of, is the testing accurate? Do all those things come into play? I think really customer or passenger buy-in is going to be a huge challenge.
That's absolutely right, Seth. One of the other topics we wanted to talk about today was antimicrobial surfaces in the cabin in particular. Antimicrobial products are those that sort of kill or slow the spread of microbes, which can include bacteria, viruses, things called protozoans, and fungi like mold or mildew. MGR Foamtex came out with an announcement this week about their MGR SoftWall next-gen product and another product called MGR SafeWall in addition. Seth, do you want to tell us more about that?
Yeah, so the SoftWall product is a really interesting idea. It's sort of padded monument linings and seat linings, so comfortable, making things a little smoother around the edges for the aircraft cabin. One of the neat things I thought about this product in general was it's a magnet-based attachment system rather than hook and loop fastener, or Velcro as it's commonly called. So that's a neat thing, and just the idea of a new product coming out for the interiors like that, a new focus on that comfort factor is really interesting. But that's the SoftWall. The SafeWall product is that plus an additional coating or impregnation with these antimicrobial characteristics. So that really helps to reduce transmissibility and the potential for any challenges like that on surfaces in the aircraft, which is just a nice extra benefit of are a bonus with these new products.
Yeah, I think it's great. This product has got antimicrobial properties. It's going to dampen sound. It's going to improve passenger comfort, and it sounds like from a maintenance perspective, it's also got some advantages to some of its competitors or former variations.
The antimicrobial concept, as you mentioned earlier, isn't new. There's a lot of products, especially in the aviation space, that have had this for a long time. SEKISUI, Kydex is talking about their thermoplastics and how those have that capabilities in them and how that's helping. They have been putting out a little bit of a push lately talking about that. Skypaxxx makes carpeting solutions, which again, a place where a lot of dirty things happen on airplanes, but where the antimicrobial features are very important. And the idea of this antimicrobial coating has been around forever, or not forever, but for long enough, and it's been in a lot of these products. But just sort of the constant reminder that it is on all these products is something I think is going to help in reassuring passengers that there's a cleaner environment, that the airplane is actually a reasonably safe place to be.
Yeah, it's funny. This is something, like you said, that's been worked into cabin materials, soft materials, hard materials for all the high-touch, sort of high-traffic areas for quite some time, but it's not really been something that airlines have been interested in sharing with passengers. I think, in the past, it's like, why even attract their attention to the fact that there's microbes here in the first place? But it will be interesting to see now, much in the way that these suppliers have sort of redesigned or rejigged their marketing materials and their sell sheets, and they've changed their PR message to focus on these properties that the products already had realistically. I wonder if airlines will sort of be looking at that and saying, is there a way that we can share these qualities with the passengers as well? It would be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's definitely going to change the marketing message from the vendors and suppliers, and as well from the airlines, that we should be expecting to see as passengers.
All right, and then just as a final thought today, I thought we'd share some of these graphics with you that were sent through to us at Apex Media by Daniel Barron from Aero Design. And those guys have actually just come up with these graphics that they're offering free to airlines, that they're hoping airlines can sort of maybe add to packaging, website, mobile app, boarding pass, IFE, screens, to sort of build confidence in air travel again by communicating the two-way benefits of wearing a mask.
Wear a mask, save a life.
Wear a mask, save a life. All right, well, that's all the time we've got for the weekly wrap today. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you like this video and other aviation stuff. Make sure you follow Seth on social media as well. Check out his website and visit the Apex.aero website. Thank you so much, Seth, for joining us today.
Happy travels.
Bye.